Alright guys, so this could be our inverse tangent. So this is if we are missing an angle. Now, we've talked about if we're missing a side. Now we'll talk about what happens when we're missing an angle. And we're going to be using a function like this, and this. In our calculator, these are the inverse functions of our trigonometry. So over here I have filled out what I had a very like 3.5 minute video reminding how to set those up. So we're just going to go ahead and solve now. So as we have learned before, the first step we want to do is locate our reference angle. And as you notice, we're missing an angle. Sometimes it'll be x, sometimes it will be that little theta symbol. Okay, in this case we just have the x. So again, the next step that we need to do is we need to locate our different our different sides. All right, so we can understand which trigonometric function we're going to use. Here I see that I'm on the opposite side, and I also see that I'm using my hypotenuse. So O and H we've learned is in SO and SOHCAHTOA. So what ends up happening here now is we're going to set up the sign of, well, now we don't have a number, so we're going to have to put x, and we set that equal to your opposite over your hypotenuse, your opposite of 12 over your hypotenuse of 17. Okay? So what happens here is we're going to use the inverse sign to get rid of this sign. What that means here is if we use the inverse sign with that -1 exponent on both sides, and I'll show you what this is going to look like in a minute, these cancel out. So you're left with just x on this side. So we'll have x equals this inverse sign of the fraction of the ratio that we have over here, 12 over 17. I like solving for the angles because this is how easy it is. And we just plug into the calculator. So again, I'm going to show you all three calculators, making sure that we understand where to find this. So in solving here, I made sure that I am in degree mode up here. We're going to go to that trig function button next to the 7, and now we're going to move down. You see that sign with the -1 exponent. We press enter, and then all we need to do is put 12 over 17 in the calculator, and we press enter, and we're done. That is it. That's how you find the angle. That's why I love the missing angle the most. So here you can say your x, your missing angle, rounding to the nearest tenth, is approximately 44.9 degrees. And we're done with the problem. And that's as hard as it's going to get with finding the missing angle. So what I suggest is that you pause it and try the next one on your own. But before, I want to make sure that you guys understand with your hyper, what's going to happen is with this inverse sign, you're going to see above your sign, you're going to see it in red. So you're going to have to push shift. So it's like the control button. So when you push shift, then you can push the sign button, and then there it is. And on my last video, I tried to find the fraction function. I could not find one. So all you have to do is remember, all this means is 12 divided by 17. So you used to do 12 divided by 17, and it pops up right there for you. Okay? On the iPhone with the calculator hashtag, this one, your sine, cosine, and tangent are here. We're not using that. We're using the inverse. So you're going to have to go next to the infinity and press this little arrow, and then there's going to be your inverse sign. You press that, and then you have your fraction function right here. You put 12 on top, so you're going to have to go back for here. You put your 12 on top, scroll down. You put the 17 on bottom. Now this one, I'm not sure exactly if you press enter if it'll work. So scroll out of that 17 and close the parentheses. Then you press your enter, and there you see it again. Okay? So I'm going to keep with the school calculator, but make sure that we understand, we rewind and look at that again. Your other two functions are right next to it. So again, your cosine inverse and tangent inverse are right here. Your cosine inverse and tangent inverse, again, having to press the shift button first, are right next to them. Okay, so going through pretty quickly because you guys see how fast this goes now. Step 1, find your reference angle. Here it is. Step 2, we need to locate our sides. Okay, here I see that I'm using my opposite, and I'm using across the 90-degree angle my hypotenuse. Again, knowing that opposite and hypotenuse are with S for sine. So we're going to set up sine of my reference angle, which is the unknown, is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So we have the 3 over the 7. To get rid of this, we will use our inverse sine so that these cancel. And we will also do the inverse sine over here. So we have x equals the inverse sine with that -1 exponent of 3 over 7. So I want you to try this one on your own in the calculator, exactly what you saw me do on either of the calculators that you have on your phone, or if you're in a classroom, how we did it on the calculator. Okay, please do this on your own. It's exactly the same. Press pause, and then once you calculate, guys, you've got to practice the calculations. Okay? After you've paused it and then pressed resume after doing it yourself, we should find out that our angle is going to come out to approximately 25.4 degrees. Okay? We'll move on to the next two. First thing, find our reference angle. Then we're going to make sure that we label our sides, making sure we have a dashed line to our hypotenuse so we don't accidentally call this our adjacent. This will be our hypotenuse, making the 5 the adjacent. A and H go with K and SOHCAHTOA. So that means cosine. We'll do the exact same thing. We will set up cosine of our unknown angle of x is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, so 5 over the 9. And to get rid of the cosine, we simply do the inverse cosine on both of these. Okay, so then we'll have x equals the inverse cosine of 5 over 9. And I'll show you just on this calculator, it's the exact same thing. Okay, we're going to go to our trigonometry button. Now we're doing inverse cosine. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to put the 5 over the 9, and we're done. So our missing angle will be approximately 56 rounded to the nearest tenth, 56.3 degrees. I want you to try the other one on your own. It's the exact same. Exact same. It's not like the other notes where the numerator and denominator are going to switch up. Okay? So try it all on your own. Pause. Do it. Use pencil. Resume, and then see if you did it right. It's the best way to find if you're making a mistake and to correct that mistake. So now you've tried it on your own, right? First step, reference angle. Second step, locate what sides we're using. I see here two sides that include the angle, so I know I'm going to have one hypotenuse, one is adjacent. The one across 90-degree angles is hypotenuse. So this one will be our adjacent. So A and H, cosine. We have cosine of our missing angle, our reference angle, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, so 20 over our hypotenuse of 38. We undo the cosine by doing the inverse cosine on both of these. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we get x equals the inverse cosine of 20 over 38. 38. Pause it. If you needed help setting it up, that's fine. Now you need to put it in your calculator by yourself. Practice that calculator because we cannot help you on your quiz nor your test. Okay? So now that you've done you're done pausing, solving, and resuming, we're going to find out that our missing angle is going to come out to approximately 58.2 degrees. And it's, guys, all this is repetition. It really is, especially with the missing angle. Figure out whether it's sine, cosine, or tangent, set it up, and then it's completely repetitious, right? Next, reference angle, step 1. Step 2, figure out what sides you're using. I see here on the opposite side, and I see here this is our adjacent because it's not across the 90-degree angle. And we know that O and A is in TOA, tangent, is opposite over adjacent. So we have the tangent of our missing reference angle X is equal to opposite 5 over adjacent 12. To get rid of that tangent next to X, we do the inverse just like what we did with the other ones. So we wind up canceling those. X will be the inverse tangent of 5 over 12. And coming here, we go to our trig button. We're now doing the inverse tangent. Right here, press enter. Control divide. On the calculators at school, 5 in the numerator, 12 in the denominator. Done. Our angle is going to come out to approximately, missing angle, 22.6 degrees. So again, to help you out, I need you to take on the responsibility of pausing it right now. Use your pencil, set it up, then press resume to see if you set it up correctly. Then pause it again, solve it, and then press resume to see if you solved it correct. Please do this on your own. We need to ace this test, okay? Step 1 is your reference angle. Step 2, find out your sides. I'm not using my hypotenuse, but I am using the opposite and the adjacent. So I have my tangent of my reference angle of X is equal to opposite 9 over adjacent 2. And we get rid of the tangent with the inverse. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So we have X is equal to the inverse tangent of 9 over 2. You plug that into your calculator, and our reference angle will come out to approximately 77.5 degrees. Right? So easy trying to find an angle with trigonometry. I love it.